In this interview, we'll talk about assisted walking for MS and the Alinker Walking Bike. I'm Jenda Tracy from Women Thriving with MS, and this series is Leading Change for MS, featuring inspiring people who share their insights and expertise on how to manage multiple sclerosis and improve health and well-being from the inside out. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe below and check out the links. Our guest today is Alink. B is an inventor, paradigm shifter, edge walker, and the founder of the Alinker. B sees the Alinker as a vehicle for social change. The Alinker connects people who are isolated because others are uncomfortable with disabilities. B and her company live and breathe the values of inclusion and equality. Welcome, B.
Hi, Jen. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great. Well, it is fantastic to have you here, not only because of your ingenious and ingenuity, but your vision for the Alinker. We're going to talk about the story. I'd like to start off with the idea.
That's so yes, that's a long time back. Actually, it's eight years back that my mom made a comment. My mom clearly is aging. And she made a comment when we passed by some elderly people with scooters, electric scooters and rollators, and out of the blue, she pretty much said, "Over my dead body, will I ever use one of those things?" Now, I'm always a bit hesitant to start with this story because then people assume like, oh, this is for elderly people. And yes, it started with a comment of my mother, but the comment actually made me aware of that mobility devices emphasize the disability. And so I became aware that most of the assistive devices, medical devices, are a technical solution for a body with a problem. Sorry, you're not a human being anymore. Now you're a body with a problem that we need to move logistically from A to B. That's what the technical devices will do. So I thought, that's weird, because if we design for a body with a problem, we lose our humanity, and we are humans, whether I have a body with MS symptoms or lose a leg or have a stroke. I'm still the same human being. I just happen to have, I just happen to walk differently or move differently.
It's interesting. There was a woman that I was communicating through YouTube because she had commented on a video that I'd created around asking for help. And she was in a grocery store and she asked someone for help, and she was using her walker and nobody stood in the line behind her.
People are very uncomfortable around disabilities because it confronts you somehow that could happen to you, and people don't want to think about that, I think, right? So that brings me to the whole movement. What if we make the space to have some kind of disability? About 20% of us have some kind of disability. What if we make that space a little bit safer? That you're not alone there, that it's not a place of isolation and being kicked in the curb and being pushed away by society because, oh, that's uncomfortable. What if we make that a safe and fun place together? That's how I set out to make the Alinker, to be so cool that people would love to use it and that people would feel that they can still be themselves regardless of their mobility challenges. What happens very often with people that use the Alinker is like, oh my God, what's that cool bike? And then you can say like, well, I'll give you a clue, I can't walk. But in the meantime, you're already talking. The connection is there, and then then people can continue to engage with each other because it's already, you're already engaged with each other.
It's like it brings the ability into the forefront in a way.
But the thing is that the disabilities and abilities are always based on the body. Now, we have a body that might look a certain way, that might have a certain skin color, that might have a kind of disability, that might have a gender reference. We have that. That's not who we are. And I think that if we continue to focus on what we have, we create the divides that somebody can then make money over. So I think that the importance is that we continue to build something is for who we are. Who do I want to be in this world? be congruent with that. I can be a kind person, right?
Yeah.
I can choose to be a kind person. Anybody who looks any different way, whether skin color or sex or disability or ability, we can all choose to be kind people and show up for each other. And I think it is time that we connect with each other on who we want to be, who we choose to be, instead of what we have.
Yeah, the essence, right, of who we
Mm-hmm.
are, or what we represent, what we want to emit to the world.
And thinking on systems level, the more divisions there are, the more big systems can make money over the divisions. So do we want to support the systems that make money over our back, or do we want to create a community for us, by us, where we can actually have fun together?
I say check mark to the fun community. Some people may not have heard of the Alinker before, but we can speak to some of what the Alinker is, how that benefits people on all levels, like body, mind, even freedom.
Well, freedom is one of the first things. What you generally have when you start a new business is that people ask you, like, who's your customer? Typically investors, shareholders will ask you, like, who's your customer and what are you going to market against? I've learned that our customers are not an existing segment in society, because they're people that identify to be active people and are looking for ways to stay active regardless of mobility challenges. So I'm an active person. I happen to get MS. And then what do I do to continue to feel myself, to be who I am still? Again, the fact that I walk wonky doesn't make me a different person. I'm still the same person. I just want to be out to, be engaged with people. That doesn't change. So then I look for something that allows me to do that.
Let's talk about the freedom of the Alinker. So for people that want to understand that it is a you call it what, a walking bike?
There's a few words. I mean, it's a new thing. So you always try to, it's an Alinker, obviously. It's a linker. It links you back to life, back to freedom, back to agency is very important. Yeah, words that are used, it's your assistive device, it's your walking bike, it's a trike, it's, walking on wheels. It is a overarching frame with two larger front wheels on a steering mechanism, overarching to a rear smaller wheel with a seating assembly on top of it. So you're at eye level as you stand, but you're supported. So your sit bones are on a seat. So your core is stable and you walk. Now, walking is crucially important. Some people say, like, why doesn't it have pedals? Like, well, there's enough bikes out there, but the motion of walking is crucially important. So because you sit with your sit bones on the seat, you tilt your pelvis back a little bit so your lower back is relaxed. You open up your spine and you actually activate your brain as you walk while you're exerting pressure on your sit bones. The whole medical system is sort of ignoring activation of brain. Pharmaceutical industry towards Parkinson's, for example, is focused on dopamine and dopamine receptors and completely ignores the circuitry of the brain. Now, if you activate the brain, so much more is possible because the brain wants to work. It just needs to be activated. So if we sit down, we demobilize the brain from the activities that it can actually do.
So you said when we sit down, we demobilize the brain?
So sitting is the new smoking. You might have heard that sentence, which is based on we do not activate the brain. And it actually makes the brain frustrated because it wants to work. And if it's not activated, it can't work. So our inhibitions are not activated. And so we get less inhibitions and become less social creatures, because inhibitions, it sounds like an inhibition, like something that, but actually inhibitions makes us more social because we filter better.
Interesting. So let's talk about some of the freedom in people being connected with the Alinker and using it as a way to move around in the world and get their brain moving too.
The ways that the Alinker has impacted the quality of lives of people or lives in general every day surprises me. It's like, it's so simple. Why wasn't it there yet? I can give you a few examples. half the people that use wheelchairs can still use their legs. There was actually nothing designed for them to be at eye level, to use their legs, to be active with their legs. I mean, it's not that people in wheelchairs cannot be active, because they can. And wheelchairs are awesome if you need them. But if you're pointed into a wheelchair and here's your medication, if you can still use your legs and you choose to have something else, there wasn't anything else as an alternative. So it was like between crutches or a cane and a wheelchair, there's nothing, and now there is, and that just opens up a whole world for people. So Joe has, when he got the Alinker, he had 20 years MS, and he often goes to conferences. Now on the Alinker, he's safe and stable. He can hold a glass of wine, he can grab a business card, he can shake a hand with somebody, and he's the one on the cool bike. Is where when he's with crutches at that same conference, it's like, oh, nice that you have a glass of wine. I don't. Because I would fall over if I let go of my crutches, etc., etc. And nobody would really talk to him because it's uncomfortable. He looks uncomfortable as he's leaning off his weight on the crutches. So his whole world had changed. He literally said, I've got my legs back. I've got my world back. Now, he was sitting at home frantically Googling for something futuristic that might suit him, is what he was looking for. And now he's independently throwing the Alinker in the back of his car, driving to Florida from New Jersey to visit family. That's the difference.
Wow, that is definitely freedom.
There is hundreds of those stories. And the interesting thing is that people share this with us all the time. I'm getting daily people like, oh my God, I got my Alinker, I did this, and I haven't been out to the mailbox for 4 years. People that have been at home for years that now go shopping again. I mean, grocery shopping, how exciting. Yes, it is. If you have been locked up in a house for 4 years and you've been depending on people doing grocery shopping for you, it's super exciting to be able to do that again.
It's moving people metaphorically and physically from homebound to possibilities they never imagined they would have again in their life, which is phenomenal. Let's talk for a moment about, because we cannot have an interview without talking about Selma Blair. Hello.
Oh my God, Selma, yes.
So that's an interesting story, and maybe you could share a little bit about it.
Well, I got an email somewhere in January about, have you seen this? And it was a screenshot of a story that is 24 hours up on Instagram, and then it disappears. And the story was Selma Blair. Somebody took a picture of Selma Blair on an Alinker in the IMSMP, which is the International Center for MS in New York. And she met Joe in the hallway there, got on the Alinker, said like, oh my God, what is that? And Joe said, I've got my legs back. And then so somebody took a shot of her and she put that on her Instagram. I was like, yeah, then I didn't see the picture because I didn't know who Selma Blair was. I had no idea. I don't have time for those stories. And I mean, I don't have time to watch movies or, you know. So I had no idea who she was. And I was like, yeah, nice, great. The next person who's discovered the Alinker, cool. And then he wrote an email back and he was like, do you want to check out who she is? Maybe. And I was like, oh, let's just Google Selma Blair. I was like, oh my God. So I knew something was up with Selma Blair, but at that time she just had seen it there. So I did not have a way to contact her. And I don't chase celebrities because that's not who I am. And I actually, that whole thing about celebrities, like, oh, you need to have a celebrity. And so on the end of February, she was at the red carpet at the Oscars and with a cane and sort of exposed to the world like this is what it looks like when you have progressive MS. Again, I missed that because I don't watch the Oscars and I had no idea. A week later, in retrospect, I know that was the Oscars. And so a week later, she posed herself on an Alinker that she then got from Jamie Lynn Sigler, who had an Alinker before, another actress from Hollywood who has MS. And she posted herself on the Alinker.
Did you know that Jamie had an Alinker?
Yes, I'd been in contact with Jamie. That was also through the MS Center in New York because Dr. Sadiq is one of the stem cell researchers, very highly advanced on stem cell therapies, and so celebrities tend to go to him. So that's when they got the Alinker. And Joe is a client there. Then the post of Selma appears on Instagram, and my ding, 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 my Instagram just exploded. I was like, what is going on here? And then it went from there. And then in July, I got a call from Troy, the manager of Selma, and he said, Selma is in Chicago and thought she could do without the Alinker. She's there for a treatment. She was there for treatment.
Yeah.
And he said she thought she could do it without the Alinker because she'd be in hospital, but apparently the hospital is huge and you have to walk. And she's exhausted after a few days. Can you ship me another Alinker? And I was like, well, actually I can't because we're on back order. And I said, but what I can do is just come over and deliver my Alinker that I have at home for Selma to use. And he was like, oh no, you shouldn't. I was like, of course I should. And I felt with the post that Selma was posting, I got to know her a little bit, and that she's a real person and not just a celebrity. And I got a feeling that Selma was actually real, and what she was doing, exposing herself to the world's like, yes, it's uncomfortable. Guess what? I'm living with that 24/7. It's okay if you're a little bit uncomfortable, because that's just what it is. I haven't changed. I'm still Selma Blair. I'm still a person who is kind and loving. And I thought, that is a person that I'd like to be associated with because of who she was. So then I actually drove, and there's a video of that meeting with
Yes,
Selma.
I saw
That's
it,
the
and
video
let's post that. I'll post that for sure because that's such a great video, and I've shared it before, and let's do that because that is such a joyous interaction.
Yes.
And what a gift to be willing to do that. It probably wouldn't have mattered who it was if you had known the person. I know what a kind-hearted person you are. If someone had
Yes.
been in that same position, I know you would have done the same thing because that's
we do
who
that
you are.
for a lot of people. I mean, not 1,500 kilometers.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, I had to be in Detroit anyway for an interview. So Detroit, Chicago wasn't that far off.
One of the things I want to share with people as we're here on the Alinker homepage is how to find out about how to crowdfund for yourself. So there's lots of people living with MS or other health challenges that don't have the money to buy an Alinker, but you have an option for them to be part of a community in which they can actually raise money.
I'll give you a little bit background on that before we navigate the website. The idea is that people have been driven into poverty by our healthcare systems that I always refer to as a sick care system. And so when you're in a state of not having any resources left for your own health, then how do you buy an Alinker? They're $2,000 US. That's hard. Now, the background in that is if we were to sell the Alinker through the medical channels, and so you would get it back from insurance, it would retail at least for $4,500-$5,000 because that is how that industry works.
So basically doubles or triples the cost of something in order to
Yes.
kind of recoup or at least make money back. It's all about making money, right?
The whole system is set up that it first of all takes away your agency. So they do an assessment on you, and they then determine which is the best device for you to use. So it takes away your agency, and then the devices that you get are way more expensive than we can sell them for. So we sell them for $2,000. They would retail for $4,500-$5,000 because that's the margin of that industry. So we do not want to participate in that. So a little bit background on that. So, well, I invented a way to do this differently, and I thought, what happened? Like, many people do not know what happens to you once you get a diagnosis of MS, or once you get a stroke, and what happens to you in our current sick care system. So what a way to share your story and then invite people to show up with generosity to help you finance the Alinker. So it's not just asking for money. It is a platform where people share, so you know, so you can learn about what happens to you, what you could be prepared for if something were to happen to you.
Well, what's interesting about that too is I love the fact, and this from my perspective, that it gives people a voice, right? When you
Mhm.
tell your story, I mean, people get tired. Some people do not want to hear people's stories. So this gives an avenue in which people can share and build a community and get support around moving towards getting their own Alinker.
And there is something like, oh my God, they're experiencing exactly the same as I do. And so
Yes,
the people that connect with each other, because the campaigners do connect with each other, and we actually hire Alinker users that have done a campaign successfully. So far, actually, they've all been successful. That's how incredible this community is that we've been able to build, and that shows up for each other. Yeah, people feel seen, heard, understood, and then they can share. And then they can invite people and to, show up with generosity. And
right.
it works like anything. Like there's 109 campaigns completed,
That's
right?
amazing.
Yes.
109 people have
Yeah.
received an A-linker as a result of telling their story and having a campaign posted within your community and
Yeah.
finding and having people that don't even know them give
Yes.
them money towards having the A-linker for themselves.
Yes. Exactly.
Fantastic. So,
Yeah.
so here we are on the website. So if I wanted to find that, where would I look for it?
So click on the crowdfund if you want to go, if you're interested in the crowdfunding.
Okay.
And then what you can see when you scroll down
Mm-hmm.
is a collective campaign that we just completed. That's a whole different thing. I'll explain that later, but scroll down further.
Okay. Active campaign. Keep going.
Yeah, so there's the active campaigns.
Okay.
And then meet the folks who successfully completed the campaign, a little link underneath there.
Okay.
And
Meet
when
them.
you, and
Okay.
before you click on that,
Mm-hmm.
learn more about crowdfunding. So that gives you some background on what we're doing. And
Okay.
underneath there, you can see start your own campaign.
Ah, start your
So
own campaign. Okay.
yeah, and so meet the folks who successfully completed the campaigns. That's the people that still have active campaigns open, and the people that have completed their campaigns. Somewhere after the first 79 completed campaigns, we switched the platform from Canadian dollars to a US dollar based platform,
Okay.
just because the people from the US are 10 times more generally than people from Canada. That's just a demographic number. Yeah.
So meet the folks who successfully completed. I'm just going to go here for 1 sec. So these are the past campaigns, so people can look and see what
Yep.
the stories, and they can also see, oh, these campaigns are still running, correct?
Yep. So the
Okay.
$2.2 thousand dollars, these
Mm-hmm.
are campaigns that are completed. They're still up. We haven't closed them yet.
Oh, you
There's
haven't closed them. Okay. So anybody who's got 2.2 thousand means that they've completed. So that person has already completed.
exactly.
Okay. And then the other ones are ones that are still in process. And it's amazing within 20, so it says 20 days left. So how did they determine how many days that there's going to be? How does that work, the campaigns in
That's
that way?
that's all set in advance. We set that. We set it at 45 days,
Mm-hmm.
and you raised $2,200, which includes the Alinker, shipping to your home, and the full support. And we hire Alinker users to help build the campaigns and to do the whole community building. So people that do the campaigns here do not handle money, because if you're on disability, you're not supposed to handle money or to raise money
That's
because it
right.
will be deducted. So the
Yes.
whole platform is integrated in our website and set up to complete, and we then ship the Alinker, so you never handle money.
That's a fantastic system. So they can start a campaign. Now, how many campaigns does the A-Linker run at any one time?
So we
Okay.
actually toned it down to 8 to 10 campaigns.
So that's the sweet spot, is 8 to 10 campaigns at a time. So do people end up in a queue?
Yeah, so we've got 4 Alinker users that are employed with us now, and hopefully we will have more people employed with us in the future. So Once you put your campaign up and you submitted it, at the end, after you build your campaign, make sure you have a video or a photograph, story, a tagline, and your social media. You have to be able to link your social media with the campaign. So once you've submitted it, then you will be contacted by one of the 3 people that help you do the campaigns. They go over it to make sure that that it's a strong story, that you like that people understand that it's not it's sort of like, oh, this is such a life, but it's like, this has happened to me. This is what happens to you, what can happen to you when, you know, when you receive a diagnosis of MS. And this is what I envision that happens to me with the Alinker based on how we engage. So once that's done, your campaign is being set in on a waiting list. There's about 700 and growing people on the waiting list.
So people have to be patient. Also,
Yep.
they can look at other people's stories and read them and see what is a compelling story that has made it to the website, and that will help guide them on creating their own story. So it's not like they have to figure this out for themselves. They have examples from the community on how to do that. So I feel so much happiness and joy to know that people have this opportunity. And that really comes back to those values and beliefs of yourself and Alinker around inclusion. Thank you so much for really showing up in a way that illustrates what your values are and what your company represents and how you're very much involving community, that this is a community movement, not just a social change. It's so much more than that.
On that note, I'd like to add the last thing, Jennifer, is how we met each other is through SheEO, Women Funding Women. And that's actually how we met. That's another very generous network of people that just show up for each other. And I'm one of the ventures that's supported by SheEO, and you're one of the activators, and that's how we met. And I think it's beautiful that that is the connection for a conversation like we just had.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Remember to subscribe below so that you know when the next Leading Change interview is going to be available. Like, share, and write your comments below, and we will see you soon.